And here now by phone to help us take a closer look at all of this, former prosecutor and partner at Baric and Associate Steve Baric. Thank you so much for joining us. Actually, you're not by phone, we're live. Thank you so much. It's good to see your face.
Good to be seen. Thank you for having me.
Well, this is a messy case, to say the least.
It is.
Willis's father just on the stand there. For those catching up, why exactly is her daddy a witness in court, and what is the relevance to the charges against her?
Yeah, so I think they called him in for a couple reasons. One, there was this discussion. I think his role was to corroborate some of Miss Willis's testimony yesterday, explaining why she would have cash. And I think the other part of it is dealing with the timeline of the relationship she had with Mr. Wade, because frankly, the defense's witness that was her friend and former roommate really hurt the prosecutor's position yesterday. So I think that was Mr. Floyd, I believe his name was brought in to counteract what the defense did yesterday.
And he mentioned her previous boyfriend, who he called a disc jockey. He said he just found out about Nathan Wade about 7 weeks ago. What did you take away from Fani Willis's testimony on Thursday? There were times her tone was demure. There were other times she was more defensive.
Well, that's. I guess I would say I'll be honest, as a former prosecutor, I was shocked at her demeanor. I was shocked at her tone during part of her testimony. I think part of it, sometimes she was demure, sometimes she was unbelievably aggressive. So I was taken aback yesterday by her testimony. I was surprised she testified. I think one of the reasons why the government didn't bring her today is because it went so poorly yesterday. So I was a little surprised at her testimony yesterday, to be honest with you.
Well, we would expect nothing less than honesty here. Do you think that she'll be disqualified from this case?
I think it's an interesting case, and it's a tough case for the judge, because I think your reporter talked about showing financial improprieties, and that's what the defense has to do. I think that's where they started. I think the next question becomes is, under the ABA rules and under the Georgia statutes and the National Association of District Attorneys, a prosecutor has a fundamental obligation to be ethical. And one of the most important parts of ethics is being clear and honest in all testimony and pleadings before the court. And I think if this judge were to determine, and this is a tough decision on his part, that this story about the cash from Mr. Wade is not true, that the affidavit saying when the relationship started is untrue, then that's prosecutorial misconduct. And that is an ethics violation, and that is a ground for recusal. So I'll answer your question this way. I think the judge has a tough choice. I think that the government is now putting on witnesses to try and make his choice even tougher. And I think it's going to be an interesting ruling. And there's no way he's going to do it on the bench today. This judge is going to take time to think about it. That's for sure.
There's the question from some in the public about perception. There's the thing of perception, that a romantic interest with someone you are working with, particularly one with whom is receiving money, in a case that is so highlighted because this is a presidential investigation, is one thing. Is it against the law?
Right. Well, I think that's the thing, right? I think everyone would concede it was probably poor judgment on behalf of Miss Willis and Mr. Wade to engage in a relationship in this type of environment. But I think as it relates to the initial pleading from the defense, that being there has to be a financial interest on behalf of Miss Willis in the outcome of the case, I think that's a tough question. It's a hard question. And a hard argument to make based on these facts. I think it's close, but it's a tough one. I think the defense's stronger argument, if they're going to make it, deals with, are they telling the truth? This story saying, well, she reimbursed me, and okay, where's the proof? "Oh, I don't have any. It's cat." She carried around a bunch of cash with her all the time. I'll be honest, I prosecuted a lot of cases and I heard that story a lot. You know, it doesn't create an environment of confidence and trust with an individual who's prosecuting this level of case. And
Right.
so I think, you know, as a prosecutor, and this is important for everyone to understand, you go into starting a case and you're trying to protect your potential conviction on appeal. That's part of your job as a prosecutor. And I think most district attorneys with this kind of a mess would voluntarily recuse themselves to, you know, put their office, take them out of the line of fire, allow other prosecutors to pursue this case. So if they were to accomplish and receive a conviction, that it would be protected on appeal. Right now, we have a built-in appeal for the defense, and I think that's concerning. So I would just, I think that's important for people watching this case to understand is that, you know, the defense has done a good job of creating an issue where there may not have been any issues going forward before.
Okay, let me ask you one more question. I need a quick answer on this one as we're out of time. There have been reports, and I've tried to find more corroboration of this detail, that Nathan Wade was paid maybe 3 times more money than other prosecutors who were compiling information in this election interference case when he had far less experience than those other prosecutors.
Right.
Do you know anything about that, and does that weigh heavily on this particular instance?
So I've seen information on both sides of that issue. Yes and no, he was paid a commensurate rate based on his experience. I would think it would most definitely be a factor for this court to consider in terms of assessing credibility issues and just an overall ethics question. Remember, it's not just the financial conflict, was there an ethical violation that could potentially lead to prosecutorial misconduct, which allows for a recusal?
Steve Baric, thank you again for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.